All right, welcome to episode 109 of the Zenspath Entertainment Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Powers. Joining me once again this week, we have Stephen, Rachel,
hi there,
and Chris, for as long as his computer decides he can be here.
Goodbye.
That would be like the third time in 20 minutes. So. I think he did it on purpose, though, so it makes sense.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're all good. All right. Man, so we have Thanksgiving coming up and a bunch of other stuff. It's been a fairly busy week. And to start that off, we'll go ahead and jump into what we've been up to. Rachel, let's start with you this week. What you been up to?
Oh, we're starting with me. Okay.
Yeah, I'm mixing up.
I haven't been up to too much this week, mainly because I have had to be up very early for the last 2-3 weeks for work for various holiday reasons. Spirit of Christmas.
Right.
And so when I get home, I'm too tired to really do anything super fun, like play games or anything like that. But today has been my first day to myself in a while. And I decided, well, you know what? I'm going to watch Five Nights at Freddy's, which is kind of unusual for me because I normally don't consume like horror movies or series or anything like that, because they generally just annoy me. But, when the games were still coming out and they were still relatively new, I did watch a few playthroughs of them. I watched like lore videos because I thought the lore was interesting. So I was like, okay, I'm familiar with this, so let me go ahead and watch it. Not scary. To me, it was not scary. It had some pretty quality jump scares in it where you're like, oh, okay, you okay, cool. But they were more funny to me than they were like actually scary jump scares. But they did a great job with the lore, essentially. And there was a little bit of some like mixing it up a little bit, but it was really a love letter to the fans. They made this film for the fans of Five Nights at Freddy's. They did not make it for normal people to consume. Yes, it would still be enjoyable for people not familiar with it to watch, but it would be more enjoyable and have more shock factor and more things to go, oh my God, about for people who are familiar with all of the little things and stuff like that. And also
did so well too.
Yeah. And also like the Jim Henson Creature Company designed the suits.
Always a good choice. Always such a good choice.
It was very, 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 very good. Like, I don't know if you've seen like photos, but I was sitting here like, well, God, if I saw Bonnie in person, I would be legit freaked out by that, because this thing looks like it could like snap me in half like a twig. And like
they apparently reported that they moved a little bit on their own on set, and I'm like, that would be. I'm like, oh, we're out for the day.
So there was essentially 3 ways that they were portrayed. There was puppet versions, like actual like puppets. There was robot animatronic versions, and there were people in suits versions. So depending on what scene they were filming, that varied. So they essentially did that. So, which was kind of that was really, really, really cool. Like one particular scene, like the scene that had the music that I heard you talking and you say da, 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 like that part where they're performing on stage. That scene, if I remember correctly, actually had people in the suits performing.
That makes sense.
But it was very impressive. They did a great job with it. It wasn't super scary, and they didn't intend for it to be super scary. Like, for example, there's this one part with spring locks, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with spring locks and what they do. But I don't want to spoil the entire thing, but like in the game, there's someone that gets trapped in a suit with spring locks, and with the way Springlocks function, it's supposed to be actually quite a bit more violent than what we saw on screen, and they did tone it down to keep the PG-13 rating. It could have been very, very, very much more gory and bloody and worse than what we did see, but because of how popular the Five Nights at Freddy's series is with like middle schoolers, honestly, and below, especially with the book series, which to me is bizarre for a reason I will not talk about on the show because I don't think it's appropriate.
Damn.
Yeah, no, it's weird. It's
tell me
too
after
weird.
the show, 'cause now I'm oddly curious.
I will tell you about it later. But like it was just a cool film, and the other weird thing was just a kind of a bit of background. There's two YouTubers that were very well known for their Five Nights at Freddy's content. That was Matt Pat and Markiplier. Mark was supposed to be on it, and he wasn't because he was filming Iron Lung at the time.
Right.
So he could not do that. But Matt Pat was, and he even had like, you know,
the worst line in the movie I've seen.
The literally it's just like that was his thing. That's what he always like said when he was trying to examine the lore and come up with like, you know, theory stuff, and that was his thing. So he said it in the film, which is just which plays into why I won't talk about something with the books that I did not read, but I'm aware of simply from being around the like fandom stuff, which is weird, very weird, I might add. So we could talk about that later. But it was a good movie, like, and there's I guess supposed to do more. I don't know. I remember reading Lillard did say he was signed on for like he said he was signed on for 5.
He said he was at least he's like there's 2 more in the works, he said, and everybody's like, well, that's the book. That's the book, and then they can go from there.
Mm-hmm.
Good Lord.
But I mean, I recommend it. Like if you get the opportunity to watch it, I recommend you do.
Now I'm kind of curious to know about they edited this down for PG-13 for the rating.
They didn't edit it down. Like they didn't film super violent stuff where they could do out a rated R one.
Well, I'm saying, you think would they be able? You think they could go back and do an R or unrated release for it?
They won't. Mm-mm.
There are R-rated deleted scenes out there.
Yes.
So if they put it out on disc, there most likely will be a version for that.
Yeah,
so
that's what I'm wondering. Probably at least be R-rated or something. Yeah.
But after you watch the film, like if you're interested in what the fans thought that a certain scene would be after you watch it, there's a really good YouTube video that I saw that I was like, okay, that is more accurate for what would like physically happen if that actually occurred. So, and it wasn't pretty. But keeping in line with the horror stuff, because I guess, I don't know, it's not even Halloween season anymore, and I was in a spooky mood. So I decided to start watching the Chucky show, which it's not scary either. It's just funny, because in my mind, Chucky's not a threat. He's too puntable. So, like, he's not. You just kick him.
Never had to face attack toddlers.
I don't know. I used to work with kids, man. I get it.
Too, but have you ever punted one of those dolls? That would hurt.
It would probably hurt, yeah. But yeah, no, I started watching it, and it's something to watch. It's not. I mean, I don't know what to say about it, but
every show does have their tagline. It's something to watch.
Yeah, it's not bad. I'm enjoying it. There's some really good like effects in it, and there's parts that are just genuinely funny, and I don't know if they are supposed to be funny or not because my sense of humor is weird, but that's what I've been doing. I'm almost done with the book I'm reading. That's cool, but I haven't really I started another like personal project thing that I had already completed, but now I'm redoing because there's more updated information, and I'm working on this smaller project that I had already like completed. It was something that I did for work when we were closed because I was essentially getting paid to sit around and do nothing. And I was like, okay, let me make something useful that I can use at work. And I was just like, oh, now there's all this new stuff, so I should probably update this just for fun. And hopefully that'll get me back in the creating mood so I can work on other related personal projects. And that's all I've been doing. Just fooling around in Photoshop and finding out. Yep.
Okay. Steven, what you been up to?
Oh, first thing we had to make sure to do, Chris and I went Back to the Future with Power Wash. Where all the
didn't even get me involved.
Where any references that have trademarks have been removed.
Oh.
So it is not the DeLorean, it is the time machine that you're cleaning.
They even removed the hood ornament thing.
Really?
The DMC thing on the front.
Oh,
it's
wow.
Gone.
There's some interactivity though, like ringing the bell, waiting for the car to come back and stuff like that. So there's little achievements they give you, which is nice. So we basically had another nice little therapy session while we cleaned. What was it? The school,
the clock tower, the train, the Emmett Brown science bus or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah, and unfortunately, all you talk to is Alex the intern. So I was like, man.
And he reads the script. So you're watching some dude text you what happens in the movie, and you don't even get the theme. I was waiting for the theme.
No theme.
No theme.
Damn it.
But we were even discussing it, and I said it's kind of a no-brainer. And I hope either at the Game Awards or something like that, for your enjoyment, Jeremy, I think it would be great if they would announce like a Ghostbusters one that would coincide with the film.
I'd be all freaking
stuff
over
with
that.
slime on it. Of course, you're going to clean that. You're going to clean the firehouse. You're going to clean the Ecto One. I was like, it writes itself, guys. I was just like, come on.
Yeah, go back and clean up the library from the first movie with all
get
the
on the horn, clean it up.
Clean up the hotel.
When I'm not playing games, I'm basically watching more randomizers. I've been addicted to watching some of them just because of the pure insanity of it.
Mm-hmm.
When you're trying to fight a boss and it's the end boss instead of the first boss and stuff like that. Because the latest one was the YouTuber Maximilian. He got a jailbroken PS4 that had an old version on it, and so it could be jailbroken, and he made it so a modder made it so Bloodborne could be played in 60 frames per second.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
And installed the randomizer on it. So
nice. I remember hearing about the 60 frame mod.
And then apparently they did it again with the PS5 because he played that, but that wasn't random. So I'm like, I don't want to see a playthrough. I want to see a weird playthrough. Speaking of weird, Chris and I battered our bodies, completing every stage that we could of WarioWare Move It.
It was so painful.
Oh.
I still have to play it. I've got it, and I've been traveling.
I will say the best.
It was good exercise.
It was, and not for nothing. When we were done with it all, the best mode I think for like teams, groups, and stuff that you and your kids will love is they have one where one player basically faces with the controllers is facing away from the TV, looking at everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And then the person who's facing the TV without controllers, he's acting out the minigame. So if you just play just the two of you, the other one acts out the minigame, and then you're doing it on the controller, hopefully completing that stage. And if you play with more than two people, one of them gets to try to be the trickster and tries to like pretend they're playing a different minigame, and you got to figure out which one's doing the right one.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's horrible.
So it was, and then they have the one from the GameCube where like you have to do the minigame, but you have to pretend you're shivering cold, or you have to shuffle your feet, or you have to jump up and down while you're doing it. So
really,
they brought back some GameCube ideas too, so it was kind of nice. Wario sounds like if I impersonated Wario, so the guy who does the voice of Mario and the flowers from Wonder, please let somebody else do Wario because it's not very good.
Oh, buddy.
I think he'll grow into it because Wario didn't have a definitive voice from Charles Martinet for a long time.
Wario.
I don't know. To say someone would grow into it doesn't sound like what Nintendo would do.
You know what? I hope that's true for all voice actors that have some issues with, I guess, I don't know, tonality. Looking at you, voice actor for Zack Fair in Crisis Core. But I don't know.
Fall into it. I was like, Nintendo usually says like one and done has to be great. So I don't know.
Maybe they're changing their tune. Who knows? I never know what they're gonna do. I never know how these companies are gonna react to stuff like that.
I attempted to play Dead Space Remake, but apparently there's some kind of bug going around Game Pass where it'll do everything from say you don't have any games from Game Pass all the way to, for me, I couldn't go to the Game Pass hub. It said there's nothing there, but I could still find and launch my games. And because Dead Space, even though I have the physical, it was installed Game Pass instead of off the disc, I'd be playing through the remake, and then how Xbox crashes is it just goes back to the home screen with no quick resume. So I'd be going through like a tunnel, and I'm like, okay, where am I going? And then suddenly I'd see the home screen. I'm like, what just happened? It didn't save. I'm watching the intro again.
Scariest thing of all, technical difficulties.
I don't know about you, but when you lose your save progress 3 times in a row, you kind of just don't want to play that game for a while.
At least with Eternal Darkness, it was deliberate.
You know what's what that sounds like? You got ghosts in your Xbox.
Lord.
Awesome, we're haunted.
Or maybe there's just a corrupted file creating Dead Space. Anyway.
Hey!
But last but not least, and we'll talk a little bit about it, the Indie World from Nintendo was this week, and they love the Shadow Drop games, and they Shadow Dropped one that piqued my interest called Backpack Hero.
Interesting.
Like you're a little mouse guy who finds a magical backpack that can fit stuff in it, and more stuff. And it basically combines the inventory management of Resident Evil 4 with, surprisingly, this surprised some people, with, for me, the town building of like Soul Blazer or Dark Cloud, because you go like a roguelike. I know everybody doesn't like that word anymore, but you go into the dungeons and you find different items that can either attract people to your town or you save people. And if you get a big enough population, they can help you build the inn, build the shops, build like people who'll give you more quests. So I'm just scratching the surface, and I need Chris to listen to the 8-bit music it has, because it sounds like it's borrowing a Genesis sound library, and I'm thinking it's Shining Force, but I'm not sure. But as soon as I heard it, I was just like, what is this coming from?
It's a good sound font library, if it is.
Right?
Yeah, good nostalgic. Very nostalgic sounds.
Okay. All right. Chris, what have you been up to?
Not nearly as much as everybody else. I've been a little more pinpointed. I 100%ed Super Mario Brothers Wonder, and that took a lot of lives to do. It was very fun, but the last level was very, Grand Pooh Bear or Ryukar or whatever level, because you have to do everything exactly right from the beginning to the first. There are so many things you have to do and like 3 checkpoints. So yes, it was a thing, but I finished it and I am happy. Also been playing the new Super Mario RPG. I thought I was going to switch to the old music. I didn't so far at all. It's all amazing music. The graphics are fun. The script is surprisingly on point. I was expecting them to change a bunch of stuff. Aside from a couple names, it's faithful. And I'm also having problems with Game Pass. Microsoft just, I don't know what they're doing, but I have no games. 0.
That's not good.
You're right. So yes, that's what's been going on with me. Microsoft hates me, so I'm with Nintendo for a while.
Ooh, I'm curious if they're going to issue a credit to anybody, because if you haven't been able to play these games for a while and you're paying for it, like, what the hell,
Well,
you know?
it begs the question: how many people are affected by this, or is it just a couple of random people? Because if it's just completely random due to some kind of weird update or file wasn't installed correctly during who knows?
Yeah, like I don't expect the credit because I have CenturyLink, and whenever it went out, they'd be like, "We're sorry it went out for a couple hours. Here's $1." And I'm like, "That's kind of what I paid for."
Well, I mean, like, CenturyLink, like your actual internet provider, but if this is an issue with Game Pass itself, that's kind of on them, for adding extra time
all
back
you can do is contact them, and all you can do is contact them and be like, "Hey, this is what's going on." I mean, you can, if an error code came up, you could share it and they could look it up or whatever, but
right.
It's not hurting me yet. It's just bothering
It's just
Christian,
annoying. It's
until
like,
Christian just like send a threatening ticket.
send a grumpy ticket, Chris.
I might. The funny thing is, as soon as I sent the ticket, the problem was fixed. So I thought we were good. The guy closed the thing, and then it broke again. So I have to bother him again and look like an insane person.
Nah, you won't look insane. It's just it's insane, technology. Yeah. Believe it or not, technology has its own idiosyncrasies.
I hope they say something like, maybe it's your Xbox.
Oh my God.
My Xbox Series PC. Oh, Lord.
Oh, man.
Lord in heaven.
All right. Yeah, so me. I'll go ahead and jump into what I've been up to recently. I forgot to mention this last episode, but we went and saw The Marvels and really liked it. I'm not going to spoil it other than the fact it was a really good movie. People are being stupid as crap and talking about, oh, it's ruining Marvel and it's so terrible. No, we went and we had fun, and we're going to go end up seeing it again. I'm going to take Jennifer to go see it. Like, just damn it, the movie's fun.
Are you going to get the cat bucket?
Say what?
Are you going to get the cat popcorn bucket?
No, because those theaters aren't anywhere around Panama City. I have to drive all the way to Tallahassee, which Rachel can tell you is not just a short trip.
No, it's not. And it's also Tallahassee there, so,
Oh. Yep. Basically, Chris, the popcorn buckets there's these giant pods, and the the species of the cat aliens.
Flurkins.
There's a random one inside, and the cats are the drink cups.
So you're getting blind box cat popcorn boxes, which is just great.
Neat.
Yeah, and Rachel, one of our biggest fans, is from Tallahassee. So.
They'll understand. They'll get it. They'll
probably agree. We'll be like,
they live there. They'll understand. They'll be like, yeah, I know. It's rank here sometimes.
Like Chris and I with a New York joke. We're like, yeah,
we get it.
Listen,
we get it.
If I say this with like all the love in my heart for the state that I live in, but Floridians are allowed to make fun of any part of Florida at any given time because we've all been there.
Oh, we give Orlando shit all the time up here.
Oh yeah, I know. So
and I know everyone gives crap about Panama City. We are fully aware of that.
Yeah, that's why it's called Panama.
That's where you from?
Yeah, I know. I lived there.
I moved here. You're from here. Beyond that, we ended up picking up and watching at a little movie night with Jennifer yesterday of watching Blue Beetle, which I never got to see that in theaters, and we really enjoyed it. It looks really good. They did a great job with Jaime Reyes. They brought back in a lot of stuff like Ted Kord and the original Blue Beetle. Probably one of the better live action suits of Blue Beetle I've ever seen, just sitting on a mannequin, but it looked good. They showed in the trailer like the original Blue Beetle. I say original, it was the second or Silver Age Blue Beetle, technically. His bug ship. I thought they treated that really well. The cast was funny. They did something similar with like Miss Marvel and the Marvels, where they had Kamala Khan's family kind of be involved in doing stuff. You had Jaime Reyes' family in there, which I thought was a fun little touch with how the people are. But you can tell this movie was originally supposed to be like a HBO Max series. It was supposed to be kind of like a longer series that they were going to do for a little bit, and they condensed it down to make a movie. So it feels a little pushed on that. but it works. It just feels like you're just watching a truncated TV show with good effects.
Is it part of the DCU?
I don't know. I really hope so, because I hate the fact like there's a good after credits. So I'm like, ooh, I want to see where this goes, because Blue Beetle was always one of my favorite characters as a kid. And my friend, Brent and I were talking about it. He's like, yeah, I don't think it is. I'm like, that is another really good after credits that's just gonna go to waste then. Like, come on. They should keep them. There's no other connection
to the original Super Mario Brothers. What a cliffhanger.
Oh God. Like, okay, so they mentioned, Batman, Superman, and the Flash, stuff like that, but they never mention or show anyone in particular. So it's not like they can't connect that to anything else, So there's no symbol or mention of anything or pictures of anybody. So they could slot it right in, come on, DC, you could do this. The other thing that I've been catching up on, because I've been traveling a lot. So this last trip for the past week while I was in New York, I downloaded and watched finally the entire season of Wednesday. Because I've always really liked the Addams Family.
What were your thoughts?
I really liked it, especially Gomez Addams. I loved his portrayal of him because it's way more accurate to the original comics. But I've always liked what he does in a lot of his acting. I can't remember his name right now, and I apologize for that.
Last name's Guzman, I think.
Luis Guzman,
yeah. I love his stuff, the way he always shows up, but he plays a really good Gomez.
Now a lot of people criticize him for it, and I get why, because you got to remember, a lot of people that are watching this that are Addams Family fans only know the Addams Family from the old black and white TV series, if that, or the Addams Family movies with Raul Julia. So,
Raul Julia he's still my favorite.
He's still my favorite.
Just hands 100%.
Down. But
more emulates the cartoon.
And
or the original, comic strip.
And even honestly, people don't realize that. And even if you explain it to them, they're like, I didn't even know there was a comic, so I have no context. And then they don't want to look it up. They don't want to experience that. And I said, okay, cool. You're gonna
then you can't complain about it.
Then you can't complain about it. Like, it's just a different portrayal. And people didn't like Morticia either. And I was like,
what was there not to like? I thought she did fine.
He said she did fine. Yeah, there was some stuff to me that felt, some of it fell a little flat. I'm trying to think of a specific instance, but it could have been a lot worse also. But everything else about the series was perfect. There was just some weird acting things that happened, and I was like, okay. But then the more I watched, the more I liked liked characters that I initially were like, I'm not quite sure about this. So I'm glad you finally watched it though, because I've been wanting to know what you were going to think about it. So.
Okay. But yeah, I was, crap, I lost my train of thought there. I had something I was going to say and I forgot what it was. I did really enjoy it though. I like the story behind it. I like the way it kind of left off. Hopefully we'll get another season of it.
I mean, they said we are, so.
Yep. All right, so I'll go ahead and move on. I haven't got a chance to play any of Super Mario RPG yet, but I have played a little bit more Super Mario Wonder. I'm having to take my time on this one. So I'm only in, I think, the fourth world now. Kind of digging through that, going through the levels, trying to find stuff. And I'm completing as best I can every level as I go through them. I haven't found any of the secret entrances yet. I know there's a couple of them I can go back and try and find, but I'm just kind of moving along. But I'm greatly enjoying it. It's been a lot of fun. That game still impresses me how it looks. I've seen a lot of people talking about just crapping on it though, because it's just simply because it's a 2D game. When people are talking about game of the year or stuff like that, they're like, oh, it shouldn't be considered. It's just a 2D game. And I'm like, have y'all forgot how games work? They don't all have to be certain ways. They can be good.
They're just upset that a 2D game based off one of the first characters in gaming is in the spotlight, and it's going to make all of their cool, schmancy sci-fi and everything else look inferior.
Listen, there's a particular game out there that's already swept the floor with a bunch of awards. So I'm just like, so.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll probably have our discussion of our game of the years a little bit later in December, but Wonder probably won't be on there for me as the top end, not because it's not fun, but there's so many other good choices. But the one I think you're talking about, Rachel, with all the awards, won't be it either.
Oh no, I didn't play it. Like, I've had people try to convince me to play that game, one of which is my best friend, is like, I'm going to buy it and we're going to do co-op. And I'm like, okay, buddy.
I think we're going to talk about that game in a little bit, actually. So.
Yeah.
We'll once again try and convince you to buy it.
He's going to continue to convince me to buy it. I'm fully expecting a copy to just show up at my house around my birthday. So.
Oh, God.
Yep.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump over into the news. Wrong one.
Sounded good, Ed, regardless.
Yeah. I just put a bunch of sound effects. I'm going to eventually work it out. I think we figured out like I can only have like 12 sound effects. So I've been messing with it. Last episode, Steven and I were still on here. I just kept, actually, no, you were still here, Rachel. I kept putting sound effects in.
Yeah.
Just to see what would happen.
The squeaker one was fun. I like that.
Yeah, that one's not on here. I still have the no disc and then the...
I like the buzzer, too. No.
Sega Saturn. I think that one's a favorite for Chris. He just absolutely loves that one.
Yeah,
that's the
dramatic pose and everything.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the US Saturn boot sound, but anyways. All right, so also not a fan of something is a lot of advertisers with Twitter right now. And this has become rich person hissy fit, which has been hilarious. But so Twitter has had a major exodus of advertising companies after ads were shown with pro-Nazi posts and Elon Musk endorsing anti-Semitic remarks. So Disney, Apple, Universal, Warner Brothers Discovery, Paramount, Lionsgate, IBM, and a whole bunch of other ones, including an entire chunk of Europe, have removed all of their ads from Twitter. And Elon Musk then came out with a statement that as soon as the courts open on Monday, he will sue every one of them for a freedom of speech lawsuit because they will not advertise on Twitter now, which makes no sense to me and just explains.
You want some French fries with his ambulance?
I do think it is up to the companies to pull out their advertisements whenever they wish to, unless there is, of course, some kind of contract in place prohibiting them from doing so. So, that's all I'm going to say about it.
Yeah,
so.
But I mean, so one of the bigger ones, especially with like Apple, that takes away the big issue people had where if they're advertising on Twitter, they can't really do much to remove Twitter from their store. But now that they've suspended all advertising, they could just go ahead with it and remove Twitter from their store, which blocks it from Apple devices, period.
I will say also there has been a mass exodus of users and like account profiles for like businesses and stuff like that. Like there's been posts all over Threads about like, okay, I'm here now, like actually permanently. The only reason I still have a Twitter account is because there's a bunch of like accounts that I follow that are based over in Europe for specific fandom stuff that do not have access to Threads yet because Threads isn't really a thing yet in Europe, I guess. Yeah. No, they can't get on it. Like there's a couple of friends of mine in France that literally cannot get Threads. Like weird. It's not there yet.
The only reason I'm still using Twitter is because as much as I've tried the other ones, I can't get any traction whatsoever. It feels like I'm talking to nobody.
Well, I feel like
the
that
most
on Twitter,
comments I ever see is from you three.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
you Chris isn't there.
I feel like that on Twitter. I'd say the place that I get the most engagement at all is Instagram, but that's because it's visually like a visual thing, and I post visual stuff mainly. So it's just one of those things that's like, I tried with Twitter. I
It's
tried
gonna
for
take
years.
time, you know.
Yeah. I
You
tried.
sell your items on eBay or offer up. It's like,
Right.
more people.
Yeah. But
Twitter has become like a cesspool for a lot of this stuff. Like you've got the groups that are trying to keep it together for what they have, but then you have all of this stuff being pushed where I'm seeing way more like hate speech and, you know, a lot of these reactions just being popped up. And even if you report them, nothing is done for it because they want to hide. Freedom of speech does not mean you get to be this kind of an asshole or monster to people.
Are you
that
guys,
argument falls through.
Are you guys browsing and leaving yourself on the For You side and not the following side?
It keeps switching me around, so I'm just trying to look and see what's going on.
It's annoying to me too that whenever I boot it up, yes, it's always on the For You part.
Mm-hmm.
I always set it to following, and I can say that unless I go to, hey, what's trending? I don't get to see any of that. My timeline is clean and clear. That I only see stuff if I fuck around and find out. So
I follow only very specific accounts, and unless there's something going on, like right now, there's a convention going on this weekend that a lot of posts are coming out of because of a particular like fandom I'm part of. And yeah, so my following thing will be really active right now, but like if there's not, I got nothing to look at. So For You is sometimes the only place that I can find stuff. And then I just get, once again, tired of X, I guess is as it's called now. And then I go to somewhere else, like Threads or Instagram, or God forbid, I'm so bored that I go on Facebook. So
I know sometimes when I want to unwind and just be in a quiet room, I go to Hive.
I don't
solitary
go there.
confinement to social media. Oh man, yeah, that's terrible. But I don't know. I hate how much people are feeling open and free to say and try and do so much of this hateful bullshit, and they think it's justified and allowed now, which is never part of free speech. You have your First Amendment rights, which we will have to educate you because apparently no one else is. First Amendment is freedom from government persecution for what you say. If you say something horrible and your job fires you for it, that is not a freedom of speech issue. That's fuck around and find out being enacted in your life. Because you have the freedom to say it. You're not being arrested or persecuted for it by the government. Does not protect you from the reaction of somebody else. Musk is now allowing a lot of this hate speech on there and endorsing it himself. He is now finding out that other groups don't have to advertise there. They are free to walk the hell away and leave him high and dry. And he's throwing a hissy fit because he thinks, I'm rich. I should be able to do this because I grew up in apartheid South Africa and my parents owned an emerald mine and, did this stuff to people that he deserves to get all this. And he doesn't. So
does this mean I'm only going to get My Pillow ads now?
I think he's going out of business, which is also ironic as hell and funny.
Yeah, I read that. He wasted all his money just like a lot of people are. So it's like, keep going.
Yeah, just keep doing that. So this will be your civics lesson for those of you that skipped that class in high school or were in a state or homeschool that never even had that basic civics class. That is actually how the First Amendment works. So enjoy.
I said it once. I've said it a million times. Your company profile is not your personal profile. Mm-hmm. I don't care if you just, repair Beanie Babies or you own Twitter. Keep your personal opinions out of your company.
However,
things much
your personal
easier.
Profile is now also your background check. So,
yeah.
Some companies have decided they're going to check out your Facebook. They're going to search your name and see if they find anything.
Yeah, it's getting ridiculous.
So it's just like, don't fall into the trap of social media. Get what you want out of it and make sure it's something positive. I get deals and Black Friday deals and announcements of new movies or I get told that there's a quarter arcade of Ghostbusters coming, and it's now confirmed it's going to be the 3-player version, Jeremy, and it's going to be only $300. So there you go.
Damn it!
So that's the kind of stuff I like to
go
see
right
off my
over
social
there.
media, and that's it. Other than that, I like spreading if somebody's trying to give away free stuff in their driveway, or if there's humane societies and rescues that are showing off their recent rescues and who wants to adopt them. That's what I use social media for, you know.
Yeah, I pretty much I would just use Facebook nowadays just to keep up with a few friends and family, or to post some of my photography stuff, or if I'm traveling. Instagram, I try and do like toy photography most of the time, or some stuff for the show. Can't complain too much about Twitter. I met 2 of you guys from there. So that happened.
Diamonds in the rough.
Yeah, Rachel I just met because of higher education and someone wanted me to do radio. Yeah, that's been fun.
It's funny where you meet people, you know?
No kidding. Oh, so yeah, so Twitter's a dumpster fire and everyone's leaving it, and the owner is throwing a hissy fit and saying, "You can't leave. This is my place." Whatever. So let's move on to happier news. So Rachel, you want to play a game called Baldur's Gate 3?
Oh,
I hear it's good. We can co-op it.
Listen.
Hey,
I had to
listen.
Okay.
Wrong game.
I had a coworker at 4:45 in the morning asked me, Rachel, have you ever played Baldur's Gate 3? What's it about? Can you explain it to me? This is a 38-year-old man with a child, and I was like, one, you're not playing that game. And I said, I'm like, you're not playing that game. I said, because you will get sucked into it. Your little girl will walk in and be like, Dad, what are you playing? And you'll be like, whoa, and immediately turn it off. And I said, and then I explained to him why everybody's talking about it. And then he was like, yeah, I don't have time for that. And I said, I told you didn't. You don't listen to me. But it's getting a physical release.
Yes, we're getting a physical special edition on PC, PS5, and Series X.
However, the PC edition isn't really physical. It's just a disc that goes to the installer, and you have to download it.
Yeah, I kind of figure. I mean, it's better. I guess they were like, "Hey, we want to say you got a disc." They could have just put it on a thumb drive.
They could have. They could have done a really cool thumb drive that's shaped like a sword or some other item from there. That would have been a cool collectible, but nobody listens to me.
I like that the console versions for PS5 and Xbox are complete on disc. Like they can be played off that as they are.
PS5 though is 2 discs, and Series X is 3.
Yes, that's actually
we're back in the PS1 era of multiple discs. Look at us go.
Part of the reason for that is because the Series X is also compatible with the Xbox One. This game is not, obviously.
Oh yeah,
but it tends to use the 50 gig Blu-ray discs. And the PS5 for those use 100 gig for the double layer. Yeah. So it's just that little bit of a difference.
So
once you install it, you're still on the one disc. Yeah, I love people like, that just proves it's better. It's like, really? One disc, 2 disc, whatever. As long as it installs and you're playing off one disc, who cares? It's there. Everyone gets to enjoy it. Let it happen.
Good guy, Baldur's Gate.
Right. So this also comes with a soundtrack CD, some patches, some stickers, an art book. Say what?
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Stickers.
To each their own.
I've already paid for it. So I'll be getting this early next year when it comes out.
Stickers are like the burnt French fry of your Happy Meal. You either like it or you're like, why is this in here?
They will be all over my wall. I have stickers everywhere.
Listen, when you said Happy Meal, I was like, oh yeah, I had a Happy Meal the other day. It's my first Happy Meal in many, many years. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so unhealthy, but so delicious.
But you get little tiny fries.
Oh yeah, no, I got the little, because they got the little Disney figures in the Happy Meals right now. And I got Stitch. He's back there on my shelf somewhere. Little blue guy. And then I got the Miss Marvel, the
Marvels,
the young one from the Marvels.
Oh, Ms. Marvel, yes,
yeah, Ms. Marvel. Yeah.
She was in there, and I was like, I don't really care about her, but she'll stay on my shelf anyway. I tried to watch the TV series and I just couldn't get into it. I don't know. No, I get annoyed by certain age groups now. Does that mean I'm getting old?
The one you're closest
Probably. Listen, she like 16. I don't 16-year-olds annoy me.
No, I get it. Whenever I'm shopping in Target, it's just a bunch of people fooling around because Walmart's not cool anymore. And eventually,
when has Walmart ever been cool?
And eventually, well, okay. Remember this
when they gave out little smiley stickers at the front door.
This is the Midwest. You have cornfields and department stores to hang out in.
Clearly, nobody. Well, I don't know. Did any of you wander around malls for fun when you were young?
100 times. I love malls, but they're all dead now.
Yeah, they are. I miss my mall goth era.
However, today at Mall of America, Toys R Us just opened their flagship store, so they're back.
Damn it, man. That's too far.
Rose from the dead.
Rachel's excited.
I'm sorry. I'm in yawn mode. They rose from the dead.
We recorded a little bit later today, so that's partially our fault.
At least it's not that weird thing with Bed Bath & Beyond where Overstock bought them and then said, "Oh, Overstock doesn't exist. We're Bed Bath & Beyond now."
I made this.
Yeah, if you go to bedbathbeyond.com, it's basically Overstock with Bed Bath & Beyond products.
Okay, then.
They wanted to rebrand, and it was the easiest way to buy everything plus the name and then just change their name.
That's so weird. What?
It makes sense in corporate, I'm sure.
Overstock,
no, it doesn't.
No, wait, Rachel, what is the reason that a company would do this?
It's the kids that are wrong. We're Bed Bath & Beyond.
Yeah. What is the usual reason a company does this, Rachel?
What?
Can we get that in this week?
Oh, is it corporate greed?
It's corporate. Yeah, check mark off. We've got our corporate greed for this.
We need a sound effect like a buzzer or something. Corporate greed.
Yeah.
Just pop in there with a little.
There we
go. The GameCube BIOS error. Just corporate greed.
We're back.
I wish I could work that out as like a button system instead of having to go out there and just click on it. All right, so move on to our next little bit here. So Nintendo had an indie showcase this week. Covered a pretty good amount of games. A couple of them that released now, a couple that are releasing later. But since we're trying to trim down the length of the show, we're not going to go into detail on every one of them. But I wanted us to be able to talk about one or two of the games that we personally were into, because there's some that we're going to like. I'll start off a couple of the ones I enjoyed. The Shantae Risky Revolution, which is the Game Boy Advance version that was originally never released, coming out in 2024. I guarantee I'll be getting this. I'm pretty sure it's going to get a limited run physical copy.
It's getting a Game Boy Advance physical and a Switch physical.
I'm getting this twice and buying it digitally for Jennifer. Damn it, I'm buying this 3 times. Core Keeper, coming out in summer 2024. Looked kind of fun. It was like a co-op underground farming adventure game. I wasn't even sure what in the world was going on, but I was like, I'm intrigued. I'll play it. And lastly for me was Braid Anniversary Edition, coming out in spring 2024 as well. It just looked like Braid. I'm curious what other extras they're going to have beyond commentary, because the game already looked great. It had a very painted art style to it, which scaled up well, and I still have this on 360. My only thing is like, well, I get to play it on Switch if I get a physical copy. Steven, what about you? What games caught your eye on this one?
So, as their usual Shadow Drop selves, they usually give at least 1 or 2 that are available same day.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of them they drop demos of. While I did download the demo of Howl, which is kind of like a tactics game drawn in ink style, so everything's very like ink bleeding through the paper type graphical style.
Oh, wow.
Didn't wow me, so it's something I need to jump into. But then what caught my eye was Backpack Hero, and the fact that it was available now, today, whatever, when they announced it. And there was a demo. I was like, I don't care about the demo. It looks like 2 genres I'm a fan of. I'm a fan of the organizational games, Unpacking, A Little to the Left, Save Room, all great games. But then this one had, like I said before, it had tinges of classic games, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's like little sprinklings of Soul Blazer, like if anybody remembers that game, or Dark Cloud for anybody who plays those. The fact that you're combining a roguelike with this kind of city building, it's even, you could even try to say it's a little bit like ActRaiser, but not really. It is extremely roguelike. You don't do much except for just pick what you want to attack with. You take turns, kind of the norm, but it's one of those games that's very charming. From the music to just the pixel graphics, I loved it.
Nice. All right. Rachel, did you get a chance to watch the Indie Direct at all?
Nope.
So nothing caught your eye then.
I mean,
did you ever play Braid? Well, you weren't really much into the 360 back then, were you? Well, it was on PS3 as well, though, I think, for Braid.
Don't even recognize. The only thing I recognize here is Shantae, and I didn't even really play those. So no, I didn't watch the Indie World Showcase. I probably should, since there might be stuff I like on it, but you know what kind of games I'm into. I have a very narrow interest in games, I guess.
He's very closed-minded. No, I'm kidding.
Braid makes me feel dumb, so I hate it.
Okay.
Really? Because it was a time manipulation story about a guy trying to get a girl back.
That and
it was trippy.
And hot take: if I don't like the art style, I don't care how good the game is. I hate the whole thing. It's same thing with anime. If I don't like the art style, I don't care how good the anime is. I don't want to watch it.
Okay,
fair enough.
Braid always rubbed me the wrong way because all the enemies were just these hedgehogs with human faces. They're like all bad Sonics.
That was kind of the point. They're supposed to be messed up versions of like Sonic and Mario enemies and stuff like that, because it was supposed to be an analog to a Mario game in a way, with you saving the princess type stuff.
But, I'm all for preservation, and it coming out again. Good for that. That's good.
Okay, I'm looking at the list of things announced now in the Indie World Showcase. I'm only like 3 items in, but On Your Tail looks interesting because I saw detective work and Seaside Town. I don't know.
Oh, there's a demo for the Double Shift one too. That's made by two women from Korea, I think.
Okay.
Oh, okay, cool.
Star named
one did all the detective storyline, and the other one did all the artwork. So just 2 people worked on the game, and released it. So I was just like, oh, that's pretty neat. So that's another. There's a bunch of investigative games coming.
Yeah. On Your Tail looks good. And then the Star named EOS, which kind of, I just was like, oh, EOS 10, but that was a podcast, but it has nothing to do with it. But it's a narrative puzzle game where players use photography to explore the world and uncover the truth about the disappearances of the protagonist's mother. So that's kind of cool. But no, I'm just looking. Oh, they're putting Moonstone Island on there. Okay, cool.
Nice. Chris, did you get a chance to watch the Indie Direct, or any games catch your eye?
Aside from Shantae, which I didn't even know about, I didn't know that it was canceled and it's coming back. So the rotating mechanism thing looks really cool. And, I'm all for 2D pixel games, which is why I'm also into Blade Chimera, an incredible looking Metroidvania made by the same people that did Deedlit and Wonder Labyrinth. The Synchronicity prologue for Shin Megami Tensei that was on mobile phones. That was a prelude to Strange Journey, made only as a Metroidvania, and a Toho Luna Nights game. These are all Metroidvanias done in Symphony of the Night style with incredible pixel graphics. So I've already bought it in spirit. It already is on my Switch right now.
I may have to join you with that.
Basically, what if we gave Alucard a gun?
As many items as you could find in Symphony of the Night, I'm surprised a gun was not somehow one of them.
There you go. But yes, if you like detailed pixel work, Blade Chimera is the company that makes Blade Chimera is the way to go.
Okay. I will have to check that out then.
I'm still looking through the list, and so many.
Yeah,
It's okay. Some of these look good.
Backpack Heroes are brand new dev studio from what I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Good on them for getting their foot in the door with this game. So
Nice. All right, so yeah, the Indie Direct had some interesting games. It wasn't as it didn't have as many eye-catching moments for me, where I was like, oh man, I really need to play that when it comes out, other than a handful of titles. But not everything's supposed to be for everybody. No one's going to watch one of these and love every single game. But if you get one or two titles in there that you get excited for, they've done their job. That's the intent.
I like that because with their third-party showcase, Microsoft did the same thing. But I love the format of showing the indie title and then showing the creators behind it gush about their game.
Yeah.
Okay. So continuing my thing, I'm also looking at this Urban Myth Dissolution Center. Why does this look entertaining to me? I don't know. It does. And I don't know what Gecko Gods is about, but it just looks like a really angry gecko on the image that they have for it. Oh, stop. Explore a mysterious island as a tiny gecko. Complete ancient puzzles. Yeah. Stop. That looks cool.
Solve insurance issues and
listen. Gecko Simulator, except he solves puzzles. Sign me up.
That'd be like a new age of those market games. We had, what was it, the Chuck Wagon dog food one and all those, Chex Mix or whatever.
Yeah, Chase the Chuck Wagon. You had Chex Quest.
What was there? Spot from 7-Up.
McDonald Land.
Oh yeah, McDonald's was all over that.
The Burger King Xbox 360 games.
Those were
which had
great.
Awesome documentary behind it.
Yeah. I love how those were both the only discs ever made that were Xbox and 360 games on the same disc.
Fun fact, Chris, the guys who made Carmageddon helped make what do you call it? The little pocket bike racer.
Oh my god. That's funny.
Oh, how far they've fallen. Sneak King is still hilarious to me. It's a stealth game that's just terrifyingly trying to feed people. Eat this sandwich.
They did motion capture for that, they said, and they couldn't get it right. And they called Burger King and they're like, we'll send you the head. And they're like, the head? And they got the Burger King head and they were all playing around with it in the office. And then the representative came. He's like, I hope nobody wore this. This is the only one we've ever made for it. So it belongs to Burger King. And they're like, yeah, we didn't wear it at all.
We're just delete the videos.
Mocap session and that's it. But they could do a running around and chasing each other with it on, and I was like, oh god,
that's great.
Great story.
All right, so from one funny story of a company to another one that's not. We're only going to cover this because I think we've made the rule at this point. Layoffs, we're just not going to talk about anymore. They're happening too damn often, too bad. But this is a pretty good size one that I wanted to bring up, and it covers a few other things. But the Embracer Group, this is one of the other large companies that's been kind of just gobbling up all these other ones, where everyone was watching Microsoft going, oh no, this is going to be so terrible, while ignoring how much worse Embracer Group was with everything they've been pulling in and treating. They've confirmed over 900 people, or 5% of their staff, are being laid off just out of the blue. But this is what kills me. They're laying off this amount while also seeing a 13% increase in all of their net sales just in the last quarter. So they're raking in money and then making more money by firing these people. And there's no word if they're getting any kind of, package whenever they leave or any of that stuff. They're just cutting them and going from there. Rachel's dog sounds like it's having some fun.
They probably startled each other.
Oh, that's lovely. Was it a cat and a dog?
No, it's two chihuahuas.
You are in a war zone.
So, I mean, here's the thing. They both are my babies. But one of them was my baby first, and she remembers that. So, it's just one of those things that they doggy politics.
Yeah. So, like I said, we're talking about all these people being laid off and losing their job, and this just keeps happening. And there's other companies that I don't think we've even talked about yet.
Humble Bundle, laid off too.
Yeah, Humble did. It's getting ridiculous for this, and I'm definitely seeing why more and more groups are pushing, and I think they should, to unionize a lot of this, so they can't just be cut without a reason. If they had unions for game development and other parts of game development, the whole industry, they would have more control to try and push back on this and make better deals, get better pay, better benefits, and not get just used as a mark off to increase your net profit for a quarter, because they were already seeing the numbers go up. They just wanted them to go up a little bit more at the cost of people's jobs. So it's just, it pisses me off with a lot of this, but it's happening so often. It's become just depressing.
It's really wild how in recent years there's been like layoffs, cancellations, and stuff like that, just to make an extra buck, essentially, with either tax write-offs or something like that. And related, remember how we were talking about the Acme thing? That is, there was such a stink raise that they are allowing it to be shopped.
Yep. I didn't put it on here for other reasons we've talked about before, but I at least want to mention that situation got to the point there's now a congressional hearing being held about it because of Warner Brothers continuously using this as a way of a tax break. They're like, okay, we need to take a look at what tax law you guys are using. And if you're able to actually do this, and they've had a whole bunch of producers and directors that have been like, cool, all of our meetings with them are canceled. We want nothing to do with them because we're not going to put our heart and soul into working on this with all these people just to have it shelved so you can make some more money.
That gives me hope that one day we will see that Hex Girls movie with Scooby-Doo in the haunted high rise.
Yeah, I swear if I get the news one day that says Congress made it so Batgirl can be shown in theaters or on streaming,
right,
that's something I will definitely not have on my bingo card for 2024. Is Congress saved a movie?
Listen, if you don't put it on your bingo card, the likelihood that it'll happen is higher than if you did put it on your bingo card. Like there are
they won't do it just to spite you.
There are two things for me that are on my 2025 bingo card, and I only have faith that one will happen. So we'll see.
I only have one thing on my bingo card, and it's all to Nintendo, and I don't think it's going to happen.
No.
So, Chris, we can start with you. Do you have anything else you want to add to this whole Embracer or just the layoffs in general for this crap before we finally shut the door on this part of the news for a little while?
Mostly that if it's happening, once again, if it's happening often enough that Congress is stepping in, that means they've clearly done too much. So many people are being moved around, shelved, their work just pushed aside. This was inevitable. People are basically putting their heart and soul into something for it to be used as a tax write-off. So all these people being shelved around, I hope everyone that was laid off just either finds a better place or just, land with their feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the most part, I think those people got paid, but then they can't show off their work. So it's like you painted a really good painting. Somebody bought it just so they can put it in their closet.
Wow. That is basically how art collecting works.
Well, that's, what was it? Somebody just paid $16,000 to get an unreleased, forgotten Konami game.
Yeah, and they said they're
just going to keep it. They're never going to make it public. So they get to be the only people in the world that ever get to experience and play this game. And I'm like,
unless they sell it again, then Frank Capaldi and the Game History Museum is going to try to bid for it again.
That also is how archaeologists like dig up dinosaur bones and stuff like that way back in the day when that first started. All those things, all those artifacts, all those things, a lot of times just ended up in rich people's homes and were never seen again.
Yeah, a quick segue is that they've actually found 2 lost Doctor Who episodes for people who fished them out of the trash.
Yep.
But they are not handing them over in fear of being prosecuted. So they want and everybody's agreeing with them. They want complete amnesty to hand them over, but they do not want to go to jail for stealing them many, many years ago out of the garbage.
Mm-hmm.
That shouldn't even be on the table. They should be thanking them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want it confiscated, and they don't want it to be prosecuted.
I mean,
so
have you guys like heard about like the history of that? Like, it was like a combination of they didn't save their stuff. I mean, who did back then?
Right.
But also like there was a fire too that destroyed
that
a lot
material
of stuff.
is super flammable.
Yeah. And also like this isn't just in like with like TV stations and networks and stuff like that. Game studios didn't save their stuff a lot either back in the day. That's why sometimes when we call for a remake, game studios are like, well, you see, because
I mean, that's what
they
was
don't
the
possess
one.
the files anymore.
What was
They
the
don't have
remake
it.
that came out recently that they're having to do the PS2 version because the GameCube one that ran at 60, they just lost all of it. But the PS2 one that was stuck at 30, they're still having to run now. I'm trying to remember which game that was. It was an RPG.
It's a reason why we don't have
Was it? No, it
a
wasn't
digital version of Panzer Dragoon Saga. It's gone.
Yeah.
Oh Lord, I'm trying to remember because I think I have the GameCube version.
There's a few games out there that are like that I tell people like there's a copy of the game that I don't have anymore called Bujingai, I think. The only reason the Forsaken City, yeah. The only reason I'm glad you know what that is. The only reason I bought it is because one of my favorite Japanese music artists literally is in the game. He was the Japanese voice actor. He was the character model for the main dude, everything. My copy is gone. I don't know where it is. It's in the wind, and I don't think I will ever find a copy of that game anymore.
I think it was the Tales of Symphonia, maybe.
Yes, it was a Tales of Symphonia.
Yeah, because I still have the GameCube version. That's the one that runs at 60 and runs great. But they lost all the stuff for it, and the only thing they could find was the PS2 version, which because GameCube was doing better than the PS2 at the time, technically. Not sales-wise.
But technically, so it had to limit it to 30 FPS, and that's the one they're stuck at now because everything was based around the animation and everything around the frame rate. You know, there were people out there that had GameCube copies were like, can I just send you mine? Would that help? Like,
I wish. Yeah. But... I mean, like, we appreciate your attempt.
Because I don't know if you know how these things work.
I thought you guys just had to hit a button to export to other system. Yeah.
I can drop. Jeez.
So let's move on to the next bit because, hey, we were not already mad at Embracer. Let's get madder. So the Embracer CEO now refuses to comment on Knights of the Old Republic remake that they're supposed to be making. And then we're now seeing reports that it may have actually been canceled. And even is showing the Pikachu shocked face because who saw this coming? This is what I love. The Embracer CEO, Lars Wingfors, stated that he had, quote, no comment when asked about the state of Knights of the Old Republic, then said, quote, anything I say to this becomes a headline.
I mean, he's not wrong. Anything he says does become a headline because he is not well liked at this point in this moment. So,
look at the news. Embracer CEO says anything I say will become a headline.
I mean,
that's pretty much an admission of guilt in its own way.
I will say the same is happening with, I guess, the head of WB too. That guy.
Yeah.
All I can think of is the OJ book. If I had done it, this is how I would have done it.
If I canceled it, this is what would happen.
If I killed her, this is how I would do it.
Oh, God. Okay. So if we cancel KOTOR, do we get the tax credit too? They're just watching how all that happens.
Do we own Donkey Kong? No.
Oh, man. So I still don't get like how you botch that big of a project up. Like it was marketed and shown off as this massive new remake coming, and they have completely shit the bed.
I think a lot of times, a lot of gaming companies will bite off more than they can chew. They want to be doing the next best thing, the next big thing, the next bestseller. But I miss when they just didn't show anything. Like they just said, "Hey, we're working on this."
Mm-hmm.
I miss when, because the moment you start showing stuff, people start asking for more and more and more and more and more, because that's just how we work. That's how humans work now. So I miss when both game companies, movie companies, like all these different like entities didn't show things until they were ready to show things. I hope if nothing else, with what is happening in both the acting world, the game development world, the movie making world, everything, I hope if nothing else that this is a learning experience for all of them. Is don't announce anything, don't show anything, don't talk about anything until you are kind of ready to talk about it, until you have something in some way tangible to show and you have the receipts, because otherwise you get in these situations and people are disappointed.
So I'm going to have to change the order of what we're talking about, because that's too perfect not to jump into another story about talking about when you release these things, knowing when to do it, because the people at Naughty Dog kind of completely screwed that up this week.
Oh boy.
They were trying to post some information or put up some information to Reddit, and inadvertently announced The Last of Us 2 is already getting a full remaster.
Probably supposed to be for Game Awards.
Probably, because they're not supposed to have pre-orders available until early December, which is about the time for that anyways. So they leaked a store listing is what happened, but they ended up, Sony and Naughty Dog had to unveil it. So it's coming out January 19th, 2024 for the full remaster of this game, which is now not even 3 years old and still fully playable from the PS4 version. There will be a $10 digital upgrade path for those that have the original PS4 title, so that's good. But I think it's going to be a full $70 for the game if you get the disc. They're kind of leaning towards that direction.
And there's collector's editions and all that jazz too.
Yeah,
it's exclusive to the PlayStation Direct store though. The collector's editions.
I've seen a lot more people doing that. I think the worst of them is, and Rachel will probably agree, is Square, where they'll be like, "Hey, we're going to only have these collector's editions on the Square store, and we don't know how stores work."
No. The worst is any Nintendo store exclusive.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. No, you're right.
Actually, no. Yeah,
that is actual store in New York.
That is facts. And not just the
New
New York
edition.
Not just New York.
The hottest garbage in the world.
The like I remember. So okay. I'm going to tell a story. I remember it was very, very easy for me to get the Final Fantasy 15 Collector's Edition from the Square Enix website, because I got on it at the precise right time, in the precise right way, at the precise right internet connection. Zero problems. Anytime I've tried to order something through Nintendo for their Collector's Edition, it's like somebody took a can of paint, tied it to a ceiling fan like a potato, and just terrible. Everything's on fire. There's nothing left. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I just won't get the game then. I miss the good old days. I can't argue with
this at all.
I miss the good old days when you could get a collector's edition in an actual game store and pre-order it that way. And even though
came with a physical edition of the game and not a code.
Exactly. And you, even if you didn't get it because they only had, like, let's say 15 available or something, like, you still knew there was a chance that you could get it after the fact because someone decided that they didn't want it. Mm-hmm. Now it's like, well, you snooze, you lose because you didn't have a fast enough internet connection. Oh, boo-hoo, cry.
Yeah, if you don't have a better internet connection or bots than the scalpers, you're in trouble. That's never going to happen.
It's just... No. It's very painful. It's very painful being a collector.
SpongeBob meme where Squidward's looking out through the blinds.
Yes. Yes. I love that meme.
If I had my meme generator up right now, basically Patrick and SpongeBob are Last of Us 1 and 2, while Squidward is Bloodborne, Gravity Rush 2, like all the Japanese IPs basically from Sony, all saying like, hello, we don't have optimized versions yet. And people really love us.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing 2 games have 5 releases in like 10 years.
Like, Sony, you bought Blue Point Games. You know what they do, but you're like, hey, we own you guys now.
I'm beginning to wonder. I'm beginning to wonder.
Until we need you.
Will The Last of Us be the new Skyrim with re-releases on other consoles?
If it goes on my Amazon Echo, yes.
Okay.
Would it be? I'm trying to think which one has more ports, Resident Evil 4 or Skyrim. I honestly don't know, and I honestly fear for both.
That's a good question. Oh my
Resident
god!
Evil 4 has been on like ridiculous one-off consoles, mobile phones, everything else you can think of. I think there's been more Resident Evil 4s, though you can play Skyrim on a freaking Alexa. So I don't know.
You can. I'm sorry. Anytime I think about like games being re-released and all that kind of stuff, I'm just like cries in Jak and Daxter. Cries forever. Cries.
Yeah, I got like one good collection on PS3, and they were like, we're just gonna forget this exists.
I mean, I think you could play it digitally on PS4. Like you can get it that way. Same with the Ratchet and Clank stuff. But one day, all of these developers.
I can show this off because not many people have this.
Aww.
Damn it! I need to get a copy of that.
But
great to rip and get on the
movie
site.
DVD. I won some kind of contest once and I got it. And I was like,
so
have you ever opened it?
Nope.
Never mind. I'll find somewhere else.
I am just like, one of these days, a lot of these devs will sit back and they'll be like, you know what, we should revisit that franchise. I will be long dead when that happens, probably, but whatever.
Yep. So, and we'll have a little bit of a discussion later on as a hint towards our big question about a lot of these remakes and stuff. But just to finalize for this, so we've had The Last of Us when it came out on PS3, and then not even a year later, we had the PS4 launch. We had the remaster of it that came out, and then now recently we had the remake of that game come out after. Last of Us 2 came out
from the ground up.
Right. Then we had the remaster, and then now we're having the remaster of The Last of Us.
It's a
Part
3-year-old remaster. That should get an infamous or dishonorable mention in the Guinness Book of World Record.
Like, I'm glad that the digital, the people are, I still don't get why, like, if you already have the game, if you don't get the update, like, I know they were doing that with Xbox for a while, and Sony said that they weren't doing that anymore for PS4 titles. At least it's only $10. I will give them credit for that. That's not a bad price for doing something like that, but it still seems like weird timing on it. Like, can they make anything else? Like, are they so stuck with it because they have the show that was successful that they want to just milk it dry?
Maybe.
Who knows? So,
I'll be waiting for my Forspoken remaster, where they take out all the Final Fantasy 15 clouds and bushes. Remaster from the ground up.
And with Rachel's shock, we will move on. So,
listen, I can make fun of that, okay? Because that's my child.
So Disney announced, or Marvel with Disney, whatever, same company, announced What If Season 2 coming out December 22nd, which I really enjoyed the first season of What If. The What If comics are some of my favorites. But what I found interesting with this one is they're not doing, the always, like, everything released all at once. And Rachel keeps posting stuff to Discord, which is distracting.
I'm
sorry.
Keeps
popping up notifications. I was like, what's going on? They're not doing it where everything's released all at once, but they're not spreading it out once a week. They're releasing 9 episodes over 9 days. So starting on December 22nd and going through, every day you get 1 episode.
Listen, they really said, happy belated birthday, Rachel. Here's some fun movies and TV.
So they're basically doing it leading to the new year. So that's kind of smart.
Yeah. Give people something to watch over the holidays. So that's actually really smart because most people will be at home either enjoying their Christmas gifts or doing nothing. And so gives them something to watch.
If I had a complaint though, when
Mhm.
they first announced this, I got really excited the first season. I was thinking it was gonna be kind of like Tales from the Crypt type stuff, where each one's a different story.
I mean, it
And for
was,
them,
but it isn't.
for them to just make it's a saga that is going to lead into the actual MCU, I was like, man. And now this one's going to be the same way. So I was like, okay. I guess.
I
Well, they
liked
always-
it though.
What If sometimes had, like, especially with the multiverse stuff, it kind of became their variant type thing, whatever. But so pretty much December 22nd to December 29th, you're going to have a new episode every day. And they're releasing on Christmas Eve. They have kind of a Die Hard Christmas style one of Happy Hogan being trapped in Avengers Tower, having to Die Hard his way through it, which that's fine. Die Hard's a Christmas movie, so I'll be watching that on my birthday. So that'll
I'll
be
be
entertaining.
watching that. I think it's called Silent Night from John Woo. I'll be watching that.
Yeah, that's the one with Santa going after the kidnappers, isn't it?
It's just, I think it's just a dude, because the whole movie is supposed to be quiet.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of a different one. Which one am I thinking of? There's like this girl that's being, she's like taken hostage, and she wishes for Santa Claus to help her. And it's the dude that he was from
David
Stranger
Harbour?
Things. Yeah, and he was also the last Hellboy.
And he can teleport and stuff. Yeah, that one's supposed to be pretty good too.
So he's like using candy canes, like, sucking on those till it's like a blade and like stabbing this
I
dude
might
in
watch
the neck.
that just to be, because I never want to watch another Charlie Brown Christmas ever again. So I'll watch that.
Yeah,
instead.
that's
Or
been
I'll watch
marketed-
Goldberg in Santa's sleigh.
All right. So last thing we have here, we have a holiday question that was added on. It's kind of a, we're going to give bonus questions on some of this. So what is your favorite co-op game? This can be co-op, party, or an MMO title. Which one of you guys put this on here? I didn't see.
I put it on there because with everybody getting together with their families, loved ones, or just their significant other, like maybe you want to play a game together. And I thought if somebody just put out one that they've never heard of, maybe they'll either track it down or pick it on up.
Okay. Well, since you put the question down first, we'll let you go ahead and lead us off. So, Steven, what is yours?
So, like, I'll mention my favorite in a second, but
Mhm.
like I said in the beginning, the WarioWare series in general is a lot of fun to just be wacky around people. Like, you don't know Jack's okay, but WarioWare just takes it to a different level where just two people can have a blast. But I'm going to go obscure here. My favorite co-op game is for PS2, and it is called The Adventures of Cookie and Cream.
Damn it, you took mine.
Because yes, you could try to play it where you each where you have to use arrow for one rabbit and buttons for the other, or you could play it with a friend, and there's parts where the second player has to put down their controller, and then you have to pilot a giant mech with both of you sharing a controller. And it is just wacky, mindless fun. I know Steam has become a bevy of awesome co-op games and asymmetrical games, but this one was like the first one where I was just like, does anybody want to play this again? Because I just want to play through it again. I loved it.
Yeah, I only know of that one because my friend Remy, who Rachel knows, I believe, good old Remy, he actually got me to buy that one. We were out and we found it, and he's like, you need to buy this. And I was like, why? He's like, just trust me, get it. Yep. And we got it, brought it back to the house, and started playing it. And I was like, this is absolutely hilarious. Because I had no idea what it was either. So nice. Good choice. Chris, how about you? What's your choice?
I'd probably go with the WarioWare series in general. I've just enjoyed their wackiness and the fact that you could even play the first game, WarioWare, just by, two people holding different sides of the Game Boy, which is pretty clever. I'm pretty sure that nearly every WarioWare game, even though you hold one object, is co-op. And I just really like that.
All right. Rachel, what about you?
So I want to preface this with, I am an only child, and my parents do not really play video games. So I don't really have like a lot of like old style like co-op games that I played growing up that I really enjoyed. Other than, you know, Mario Kart, I guess, would be my favorite, but that's not necessarily co-op. I guess I could classify it as a party game. Um, I did play the kind of the co-op game with before I got good at Mario Kart and Double Dash. I used to play that with my friend Cassie, where, you know, one would drive and one would throw the items, and then we'd switch every now and then.
I'm about to say Double Dash is definitely co-op.
Yeah, but other than that, the only other Portal 2, the co-op mode. So that's the only like other co-op game that I have any real experience with, like that's fresh in my memory, that I've played with other people. Everything else that is kind of, you know, it didn't really stick in my memory. Those are the only two that are triggering anything, because I mainly play single player games. So
Okay. All right. So for me, a lot of it's going to come down to for co-op games, the Gears of War series have always been some of my favorites for two people playing together. The only thing I've seen that's even been close to as fun recently has been the Dead Space 3 run with Steven that I've been having, which has had nice use of each person seeing some different things. But for just general, everyone playing together, one big one that my whole family for generations of consoles now, since like the 360 on, has been Castle Crashers. Absolutely, we can pick up that series, play it all the time. The humor is stupidly childish. My kids absolutely laugh when you're riding on deers who are flying by power of poop. Violent poop. And just kind of going from there. But the other thing that we've been doing even before my kids were born, and I have the setup, so this is kind of a 2-for-1. You have to have the setup for these. But that's going to be The Legend of Zelda 4 Sword Adventures on the GameCube with the linked Game Boy Advances.
Nice.
As well as Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, specifically the GameCube release. With the bucket. Screw the new ones because it doesn't work right. It's so messed up and going from there, but we could make the bucket work. We could have fun with that.
I will
usually have a younger sibling carry the bucket.
I will say that I had that game, but I did not have anyone to play it with.
Oh,
yeah.
Then the bucket is a bad thing. Like, that is terrible at that point. I think you can get a Moogle to carry the bucket at that point if you're single player.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't as fun single player.
It's not that smart.
Yeah.
It's not. No. It's the same thing with like 4 Sword Adventures. Like the closest 4 Sword ever got to another good release was the DS or 3DS digital one they did, but they released it in such a stupid way that you would only get it on very specific times in the entire lifetime of the DS or 3DS that they would release it. And if you didn't have it, you couldn't get it. And it worked perfectly on a DS and 3DS. So I never understood. I was like, just let us buy it. I will pay you money to get this game so we could, finish out a 4 set and play it. And then when my 3DS was stolen and they restarted it, I just said to hell with it. Had to end up basically rooting one of my 3DSs just to get the game back on there. I was like, nope, I'm getting it somehow. But that would be my co-op games that I greatly enjoy.
Yeah, I do want to give special attention though to 3 for people who can't see their loved ones in person and can only do it through the power of the internet.
Ooh, good call.
One of them is Operation Tango. If you both like puzzle games,
I have played that. I played that with someone. It is fun.
That is fantastic to play through. If you like ones that are a lot about talking and screaming at each other in fear, not in anger, is We Were Here. There's actually, I think now 5 games in the series, but the first one's free. And you can only talk to each other through a walkie-talkie by pressing like a button on your controller to talk into the walkie-talkie.
Oh,
very awesome. And then a new one that just came out now, which I need to find some people to play. I will download it on my Steam Deck if it runs, or PC or whatever. It's called Lethal Company. And what it is imagine this, Chris. You are the guy in the control room who can open all the doors. You can see what's going on, but everybody else's audio feeds coming into you. We're walking around abandoned warehouses, and when monsters appear, they start chasing you, and it's up to you to close the doors. So imagine somebody screaming for you to close the door. They're going to die.
It says it is playable on Steam Deck. I will have it tonight.
No boy.
It's got 5-star rating on there already. Like it's already.
I've seen like maybe 2 clips of it, and I'm like enamored the fact that all these people are like, shut the door, he's coming for me.
I'm just gonna get it so we can play it. Screw it.
One guy was chased by like a musical box with legs, and he was so freaked out. He was like, close the door, lock it in, and it got out and started killing people. I'm like, this game looks fantastic.
Oh God. I have one last game I want to add that I'd forgotten about until now. This one is, sadly, if you don't already have it on a Wii U, you can't get it anymore.
Oh no.
Affordable Space Adventures.
Yeah.
That is probably one of the best co-op games the Wii U ever saw. And that had some damn good co-op games where you would have one person on the gamepad that was the engineer controlling the engines and stuff like that. Another person on a controller that was the pilot. Another person on another controller that was controlling the guns or the lights. And you'd all have to work together getting your ship through this crazy maze of things to get through it. And every time we would have that at game night, we're screaming at each other, cut the engines. Oh, we're running too hot. Shoot that thing over there. Turn the lights off. You know, it was just so much yelling, but so much laughing.
Yeah, the closest thing that'll come to that now is Lovers in a Dangerous Space Time now.
Yeah, and I missed out on getting that physically. I'm trying to find a copy. I want to get it.
They did reprint it for regular retail release. I think Amazon had it for a while.
Oh, I will have to look that up then. Nice. All right, so we're going to finish out the show with our big question for this week. And I worded this horribly, so I'm going to try and explain it, and we'll go from there. But with stuff like Super Mario RPG coming out being priced at $60 for a full remake, people are arguing that remakes should be cheaper. What features or levels of changes are needed for you to justify a particular price for a remake or a remaster? And it's kind of fitting because we also had The Last of Us 2 remaster come out within a 3-year period. You know, you're talking about playing the Dead Space remaster, which was a full price game. We've got the Resident Evil 4 one, things like that. And I guess to start that off, like Super Mario RPG was $60. They went and they were faithful to it, to how the game originally was, but they completely redid it graphically. They brought back the original musician to let her change the music and do what she wanted to that, but still gave the options for the original. There's extra content to do after you finish the game. They added in new functions for people to be able to play it. So we bought it for Jennifer, for her to try, because you can simplify the battles and kind of let yourself go through it so she can experience it.
Bestiary.
Yeah, the bestiary is another thing to complete because I am ADHD and just like, ooh, I'll do all of that. So it kind of feels like it's worth it for me for the $60. But some other games I've gotten before, if it's just like a quick remaster, they might discount it a little bit. But, you know, what does it take for you to feel like, hey, this remaster is worth, you know, usually re-getting this game, I guess. Steven, you want to go for that one?
So, I'm not even part of that argument that they should be cheaper.
Oh, I didn't think any of you were. It's just something I saw.
Well, yeah, like... I'm just going where I stand because however they price it, that's fine. Like we get remakes of movies, and we're still paying the regular price of admission. It's the same thing where people are putting the work into it to kind of just either retell it exactly or make it their own. I would say the only thing that wouldn't justify a price is if basically, to give you an old-timey example, those Versus arcade machines from the past that made you pay $0.25 to play a timed version of an NES game.
Yep.
That's horrible value. Another horrible value is if somebody charged me full price, and just said we just tacked on the ability to play online. So if NSO, Nintendo Switch Online, piecemealed out their games individually, none of that would be worth it for me. They could call it whatever. They could call it a remake or remaster because you can put graphical filters on it, because love it or leave it, the N64 ones all look a lot sharper now because it's running through an emulator. So we're getting, as some would say, it's a lot of people are hard. It's hard for them to kind of differentiate remasters and remakes because sometimes the lines are blurred.
Right.
So when something just gets like a smear over it of Vaseline and they call it a remake or an HD, and I'll give an example like the Grandia HD should not be full price, and I can understand them trying to make it attractive by making it a physical, but for that one, the most they did was kind of just smear Vaseline over the graphics.
As someone who owns the Grandia HD collection, I don't own it physically, I own it digitally. I got it thankfully when it was on sale for a very limited amount of time. But I can see like 100% I did not want to pay full price for that.
And and now they're actually releasing the original Grandia for the PlayStation Classics line on PS5, and people are like, "Yay, we're getting the good one back." So yeah, for me, the only ones that should be cheaper are the ones that are lazy like that, where they just apply a filter and they call it a remake.
Yeah, we ended up getting the Grandia HD collection because Grandia 2 was the first game that Amanda ever beat. She actually got into it, played it all the way through on the Dreamcast, and finished it after we'd gotten married. So when that came out, I was like, "Oh, I'm going to get her for this for Switch." I think even she looked at it and was like, "Why does it look weird?"
Well, I'd like to see the comparison of ones that, what should be cheaper or what they argue shouldn't be cheaper. Dead Space, perfect, needs to be that way. But right now, for me, anything made by Night Dive Studios, which are just currently like remaking all their stuff, those shouldn't be full price because those are just getting kind of a resolution upgrade. And maybe I think some controls fixed, but not really.
I know, like when they were doing like the Turok series and stuff like that, they weren't charging full price, but they were doing nice advancements both to controls and some of the graphical options you could choose.
Yeah, and they were smart not to call them remakes or remasters either.
Yeah, for sure. Rachel, any thoughts on this one for you?
So yeah, so I'm one of those types of people that if I really liked a game in its first form, I will buy the remake or the remaster for the most part, because a lot of times the older copies are just, it's either a hassle for me to get it all connected up and to play, and this is just a more easily accessible way. And I think that is the large majority, like one of the biggest reasons why people do remasters is for a new group of people and people who already also experienced it to experience it. It's opening up the doors for more players, essentially, to enjoy what they made. And I think that is kind of factored into the cost a little bit, because yes, you have had developers that have spent time on this, regardless of what level it is remade or remastered. I do feel that if it's just basically a port with better graphics, slightly better graphics, I don't think that you should be charging full price for it, unless they've done a lot of work and had to rebuild some stuff from the ground up. I think the cost should be determined for how much work they had to put into it and what features are present in it as well. Like, what's a good example? So here's an example. Final Fantasy VIII, the remastered one that they did. That was not just a remaster, I think, because they literally had to go in and swap out character models. They had to put different faces on things. Like, everything else was largely the same, but there was like whole things that they had to do to get that to work, to function. They probably had to do some whole sequences like reanimated just to get that to work correctly.
Wasn't that one of the ones you talked about a little earlier? They had lost a lot of the stuff originally and had to recreate it.
Likely so, yeah. So I think that is also factoring, like, you have to factor that cost in as well. But another thing that I think people fail to consider is that, say that there's a game out there that has been remastered that either was maybe a standalone, or it had 2 games, and maybe they're remastering this to try and consider doing another follow-up, doing a 3rd game, doing something else in the future with the franchise.
Right.
And I think that is also factored into the cost. So if they lowball the price and they don't make enough on it, anything else with the franchise will never happen. So I think that's something also that we kind of should consider, like factor into when we're thinking about cost of these things. Like, I think the 7 remake is a really good example. That was a whole new game, and they could charge full price for it. If they had done it any other way, would it have been as successful? Maybe. We don't know. We'll never know. Well, on some level we do, because of the weird mobile game that they're doing right now, which is entertaining. But like, I think that's just something to consider. I'm trying to think if there's any other like remaster that I've gotten that I was just like, about. And
would you say Final Fantasy VII HD was priced correctly? What was it, like $20?
The one that was on PC?
The one that eventually just came out for Switch and Xbox. It was just the original PlayStation game with Sharknet.
I think so. Yeah. Honestly, because all they did was just, you know, improved the textures and did some smoothing and just made sure it was going to run optimally. Like, I think honestly, if the game company has the files, they don't have to do weird stuff with it. All they're doing is like going whoop whoop and then going, does this run? Okay, we just have to do minuscule things to it. Then you shouldn't be charging a huge amount for it at that point.
And also part of my argument with this was not so much of like, you know, the Final Fantasy VII was $20 digitally. It cost me more to get a physical copy, but we should all have the understanding if you're paying for physical, you're going to pay more for your, because it's a physical object.
You're paying for the printing and the pressing. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
So that I'm not taking that into account. Just so we understand.
Yeah. But I think there's a lot to consider when coming into this conversation, and I definitely did wanted to bring up, like, you know, yes, they're bringing out these games because they're wanting to get more people like playing it, and they're wanting to see if there's interest, and a lot of times that is because they want to do something with the franchise in the future, and if it isn't successful, then that will never happen. So I think that's another thing to consider for sure.
For God's sake, don't remove features.
Yes.
Doom 3 was co-op. Doom 3 BFG edition was single player. I was like, no, you don't remaster something and then say, let's get rid of something. Don't ever do that.
Yeah. And I do appreciate like game companies that will remaster something and then they will also include like an edition of the game or a sequel to the game that was never included in the States. Here's an example of something coming out soon. Or has come out. I've lost track of the dates now. The Trace Memory game, like that's coming out. The first one, like we got, and is coming out on Switch, and we never got the follow-up here in the States. So I love it when companies do that, when they are doing a remaster or a re-release in HD, and then they go, hey, guess what? We're going to include this too that was never released here. That is what I secretly hope for. With all this Ace Attorney stuff that's going on, because I want a proper Miles Edgeworth 2 released over here. Thank you very much. And
so real quick,
send threads note. So
real quick, I had to look this up because I was like, I don't remember Doom 3 ever having co-op. So the original Xbox version had it, but the BFG edition was not a port of that one. It was the PC version, which never had co-op. That's why it got brought over. So they would have had to gone back and redone all the stuff to bring co-op over. So that's kind of a weird one, but I get, like, they were like, hey, now we can actually do the PC version. It's kind of like Half-Life, original Half-Life. Even now with the update, doesn't have the co-op that the PS2 version had. That was only made for that PS2 version.
It begs the question that all the fans will say, who asked for this?
I don't know. Chris, what are your thoughts on this, man?
I think it depends on how far back the original was made. And as Rachel said, how much of a difference there is in the remaster. If you look at stuff like, say, Insane Trilogy, Spiral Reignited, and even now Super Mario RPG.
Oh, yeah, that's Spiral one. Damn.
Yeah, those games are nigh unplayable in their original forms, very difficult to find, especially as compilations. So
Mhm.
if you look at the total amount of effort done to make these games playable and enjoyable by a new generation, that's worth it.
Yes.
As an example of what not to do, I posit the Alpha Dream remakes of Superstar Saga and Bowser's Minions and Bowser's Inside Story and
Okay.
Bowser Jr.'s whatever. Not only did they skip one, they
Mhm.
didn't do Partners in Time, but it wasn't that far back between the DS and the 3DS for us to need revisions of these things. So it feels like a waste of effort when the originals are still there and playable.
You think those would have been more fitting as Switch ports?
I do, honestly.
God,
We
those would have been
eventually
great.
did get Superstar Saga on the Game Boy Advance Nintendo Switch Online.
Mhm.
We don't need new ones unless they become a compilation the way they did, the Insane Trilogy or
Mhm.
Reignited. Those were perfect. And I still like Crash Warped as it is.
Mhm.
But because it's a compilation and you see the effort put in, it's more worth it as full price.
Because like the first remasters I really remember ever messing with, which the ones I was aware of that these were remakes of previous games, was Super Mario All Stars. As a
There you
kid,
go.
getting that and going, "Oh, this is Mario 1, 2, and 3, and whatever this new one is," and they look like Super Nintendo games. Like they had that massive graphic overhaul and the music and everything, which I get the technical aspect of it now, but yeah, those collections, those are always seem to be worth the money because you're getting so
Yeah,
much stuff, like
they
Rare
even
Replay.
they even added the physics of Luigi's jumping in those. It was
Mhm.
nice.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think when you give your players value and
Ooh.
effort,
Mhm.
that is
Yep.
what is really like determines what cost they're putting it at. Like some
Exactly.
there are a few instances where people have charged way too much.
Well, I think
But-
I stumbled upon a great example of a remaster and a terrible example of a remaster
Mhm.
in the same game.
Okay.
Mario All Stars itself on the Super Nintendo was fantastic for bringing the NES games over.
Mhm.
Who remembers the Wii port of Mario All Stars, which was basically a ROM file on a disc?
I
It
don't
was
remember
it
that.
was
No.
$50. I got it. It came with like a music CD and an art book and stuff, which was nice, but it was full price game. You would put the disc into the Wii, and all it was it would just boot up Super Mario All Stars like you were playing it on Virtual Console. That was the anniversary collection, and I was like, there wasn't even like extra fun stuff. Like I remember the Kirby collection on Wii had like an episode of the cartoon and a fun museum to go through, and all these other great little things. Like at least there was stuff there.
I'm
Some of them, I feel that they can kind of skate past remaster remake because those are just collections.
their
so
collection,
they're not
yeah.
touting anything, but just saying for your value, you're getting 5 games.
Hey, do you remember was it an All Stars thing? It was on Switch. It had Super Mario Sunshine and Super Mario Galaxy.
Yeah, that
On
was
it.
3D
That
All
was Switch.
Stars.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that one, that was a kind of a weird. I wouldn't even call it a remaster. It was more like a
It was more of a compilation.
Yeah, it was a compilation,
It was
but
kind of
it did.
both.
It was kind of both. It did have some improvements to it graphically and stuff like that. There was some things that they did with it, but what made it so unusual is it was only available for such a limited time.
That is such a Nintendo move. It's such a
And
weird Nintendo
so
move.
I mean I have a physical edition of it. So like
Us too.
but I remember like they had it available digitally too, and then they said, okay, this is going to disappear after this time, and they weren't kidding. It's gone. You can still play it, but you can't get it anymore. Like
I'll give them some kudos. They had to go into Mario Galaxy though, and they had to remove all the Wii button speeches and context sensitive actions. So I'll give it to them, and they had to. I think they altered the second player functionality of being able to hit stuff. So.
Yeah, and there was some they had the Joy-Con functionality like in there for sure, which translated well, I felt, from the Wii U remote stuff. Which Jeremy, you know how I feel about the Wii U remote.
Oh, the arguments we've had are right up there with Final Fantasy.
The Wii remote, yeah, yep. Yeah.
I could never get you to play any of the Metroid Prime on that one because no. Oh no, it's Skyward Sword.
No, my arm hurt.
Oh my god. But the reason I was saying Mario All Stars on the Wii was such a bad value, yeah, they ported it over as basically the ROM file on the disc, but the Wii had the Virtual Console. You could have bought that game as just a Super Nintendo release if they had done it for like $8, maybe 10. But they released it as a full $50 game that was literally just, we put the ROM file on the disc, no extras, put it out there as a celebration and charge full price for it. That always felt like a bad remake or port or whatever they wanted to do for that. And I was like, come on. Like, it's not even a good compilation. Give us other stuff they could have included.
Yeah, because I know there's been bad collections, and what comes to mind for me is Capcom's really, really horrible at collections because it's always a hit and a miss. First, they'll give you the beat 'em up bundle, and then they'll release Arcade Stadium that has most of the beat 'em up bundle in it.
Yep.
Then they'll release Fighting Collection with all the Darkstalkers games, and then they'll give you Second Stadium, which has the Darkstalkers games in there.
They double dip and triple dip and quad dip.
But one of them has enhancements and all these things to make them better and optimized and online lobbies, while the other one has everything stripped out because it's like you're playing at an arcade. So it's like, what are you doing with with some of your remaster, so to speak, or your enhanced editions? Why would you do that?
On the other hand, we do have things like Ultra Street Fighter 2, which, and the Street Fighter 2 HD, which actually have reskins of the characters, which I would posit is closer to a remaster at this point.
The second one's, I think, now lost to time.
Yep, which is a shame. A total shame.
Oh, really? The HD? I guess that
the
never
HD
did get
where it was
released.
all hand-drawn. It's lost to 360 and PS3.
That kind of thing would have made 3D All-Stars better, personally. If they took Super Mario 3D and made it look like Galaxy. I would have loved to pay $70 for that.
I'm trying to remember. I want to say that was on a disc. Yeah, I'll have to look it up and see. All right. Well, I think that was a fun discussion. So we'll go ahead and find out where we can be found online. So, Stephen, we'll start with you. Where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me at the home of the anti-Semites, known as X, at loading_time.
Oh my God.
You can find me at the ever-growing, ever so slowly, Blue Sky at n1nintendo.bsky.social.com. You can find me at the hiring pool over at Embracer, known as Hive, at Swantendo. And you can hear me say all this weird stuff over on Discord. Join our Discord, and you can even look for me. I am N1Nintendo with a period at the end, because that's the only thing they had for me.
Am I going to have to actually edit audio for once? Chris, I will give you a little bit of time, because I know it takes a while, but where can we find you on the internet?
Actually, as soon as you stop listening to this, I disappear. And then I come back when you turn on the next one.
It's always fun to find out what your answer for that's going to be.
Inside all of us.
All in your dreams and your nightmares.
Eat the cake. Eat the cake.
Oh, no. More cake lore.
Rachel, where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me in many places. You can find me on Threads and Instagram, and I guess still X for now, at out_Rachus, RACHEOUS, where I post random things and sometimes cosplay content. You can also find me on Blue Sky, also outrageous, but no underscore. And Twitch, also outrageous, no underscore. I admittedly have not streamed in a while because your girl busy and your girl also very tired. So eventually I will get back on there playing, I don't know, Lego games maybe. That's because I bought a bunch of those. So.
All right. Well, I've been your host, Jeremy Powers. You can find me over at Instagram, Threads at ZenspathCOM. You can find me on Twitter, Hive, and Discord is at Zenspath. Blue Sky is at Zenspath.com. And then also I'll stream on the rare occasion over at twitch.tv/Zenspath. If you are listening to the audio version of this, come watch the video version at youtube.com/ZenspathCOM. And if you're watching this and you'd like to actually subscribe to the audio version. You can find us over at Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify. You can find us at zenspath.libsyn, libsyn.com, or pretty much anywhere you find your podcasts. If you can leave us a review, share it, give us a like, leave a comment on the podcast, maybe you can answer the big question yourself, and we'll see if we can get some of those responses and talk about those on future episodes. So just help us out. All right, it's been episode 109 of the Zenspath Entertainment Network, and we're out. Peace.
Gobble, gobble.
Turkey.
Coming in the next year, episode 109, remastered.